Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Hello and welcome to Better on Draft, episode 369, coming at you live from a very special time, but on the podcast you wouldn't notice. Today we will be talking to Chris Overlay from Get Hoptimized. Sorry about that, Chris. But before we get going, hey, Wendy, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Midwest IPA by Great Lakes Brewing Company.
Excellent. I usually get that mixed pack this year. I just haven't this time.
Yeah, it's a delicious one. I like it.
Yeah. And today I have Beer for Humans from Rheingeist, which is a nice, easy lager-ish.
It's weird that we're both drinking beer from Ohio.
Yeah, that's right. Nice. Hi, Chris. How are you doing? Where are you from? What are you drinking?
What's up? Thanks for having me on, gang. This is going to be fun. It's good to meet you guys. A couple of, I don't know, it's already been a month, 2 months since we hung out or whatever.
Yeah.
Excited to hang out, chat marketing and whatever with you guys. I'm from Las Vegas, so way out here in the desert. And it is 8 o'clock in the morning here, but I am still having something to drink. It is a NA from 1812, their Wavefinder IPA. So got some bubbles in me, but we'll see how the day goes. Maybe have one in a bit.
Excellent. I don't know anything about 1812. Where are they out of?
They're out of Massachusetts, I believe.
Okay.
No, Maine. Excuse me, Maine. The other M state. Way up in the Northeast.
Well, thank you for being on. As you alluded to, we did meet in at CPC in Indianapolis, where I happen to live. So I'm going to start by asking you, what do you think of Indianapolis?
I liked Indy. It was a fun city. My wife and I actually. She came up and got there on that Thursday, so I was there all week. And she runs like half marathons. She's trying to do one in every state, so she signed up for the Indy Mini, and we hung out for that following weekend. I ran the 5K, which was really hard to do after spending a week drinking beer and being on my feet all the whole time. But then we went around. We went to like some bars and stuff and breweries, and it was fun hanging out in the city. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have run the Indy Mini a couple of times, and I have to ask, what'd you think of running out on the racetrack?
She loved it.
Yeah,
she thought it was awesome. Right around that time in her race time, it was right when the sun was coming out, so it got really hot and humid at that moment because it was raining most of the time. My 5K was fast, but she ran the bigger one, and but otherwise she loved it. She's like, it was a nice flat course. It was it was easy to make it work, and lots of fun people on the way. She loved the signs that everybody puts up. It was a good crowd. So, yeah.
So, sorry, one more running thing, but that particular weekend, the Indy Mini is on, I want to say the Saturday, and the Flying Pig is on the Sunday. I might have those reversed. The Flying Pig in Cincinnati is the opposite race course type of a thing. It is all up and down. If there's a flat stretch, it is because you are between two hills.
Nice. Yeah, the hilly ones are hard.
Yeah.
She ran one in the where was it? It was like in the Appalachia kind of mountain area over in the state park in Virginia. And I didn't do any running for that one, but I kind of drove out there and was there. And it was like, I was like, man, this is going to be a hard race. It is up and down and up and down and up and down. Yep. But she did it. She made it. She's awesome. I'm not, but she's cool.
Excellent. So to get back to beer, you said you got around a little bit in Indianapolis. Were there any standout bars or breweries that you got to that come to mind? Man. It's okay if nothing stands out.
I'm trying to remember.
It was 2 months ago.
Yeah. Gosh, and you put me on the spot with trying to remember. Yeah. There were several that we went to. Trying to remember some of my favorites. It was called. I keep wanting to say United, but it's not United. They have an awesome brewery setup, big open space. It was where the Ales for ALS event was on one of the days. That was an awesome brewery with like the outdoor seating and the benches and all that. Loved it there. My wife and I really loved the Inferno Room, which is a tiki bar, but that was rad. We're becoming tiki people after we get.
It's kind of bad people to become.
No. Yeah, it's fun. It's a great place to hang out and get a little wasted. But no, man, I think I was really impressed with the beer overall. I drank a lot of great indie beers during the conference and around, because they're around, so that was fun. And yeah, overall solid, man. I can't think of something, once I saw it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was the thing I really liked. I'd have to dig in my notes or look at.
I understand. How about the conference itself? How'd you feel that it went, and how did it? I don't know if you've been to other ones, but how did it compare?
This is my third one that I went to, and the first one I went to was in Nashville, and I think I got spoiled because Nashville was like rad and very well attended, and all the after networking event party or whatever. There were so many of them everywhere. The conference was big. I also spoke in Nashville, and that was a fun experience. And then it was in Vegas, and that was cool because I didn't have to go anywhere. Right, I could just drive over and hang out, which was nice. No travel expenses for me. But a little less, attendance. People kind of, the feedback was that, there was too much distraction in Vegas. It was kind of expensive. And Indy, I think, was a bit better for the vibes. And the networking events were better, I think, overall than in Vegas. But the conference stuff, this is our first time doing a booth at the conference. And it was tough. It felt like where we were positioned, there wasn't a whole lot of foot traffic. I think there was less people attending CBC this year. And, from a vendor kind of perspective, and in talking to some of the other vendors that were there, it was a tough year for that vibe. Although, I got to see a lot of great clients, like my good buddies up in Hinterland and Big Dogs here in Vegas. They were out there. Some of my clients won awards at the World Beer Cup, which was awesome. So the networking piece of it was great. And it's always good to chat with people and try new things and see what people are doing out there. So it's a mixed bag for Indy.
Yeah. Okay. So what brought you to craft beer?
Good question. So, I started Get Hoptimized like 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, because I wanted to get into the craft beer space. I had been a home brewer for several years, loved the craft beer industry, and love craft beer, right? And I wanted to get into the space, and I had just exited another partnership with another agency. I sold my equity out of that, and I was like, well, I want to start my own thing. I want to niche into an industry that I really care about and where I can help and love what I do every single day, So I had a few in mind, and craft beer was at the top of that list. Did some research. I was like, okay, I think we can make something work here, and jumped into it, and it's been fun since.
Excellent.
So what does a marketing company actually do?
Nothing. We just, hang out. We scan the internet. No, a marketing company can do a lot of it's a good question, actually, because there's all sorts of different marketing companies out there. And I think maybe people that have never worked with an agency, or they're maybe just getting started with their business, or maybe they've been around for a while and they're like, well, what is marketing really? And there's all sorts of agencies out there. There's agencies that do SEO, search engine optimization. There's agencies that do website design. There's marketing agencies that do branding design and graphic design. What our agency does, our particular version is we do what I call performance marketing, or growth marketing, where we're running advertising. So we're doing digital advertising, and conversion rate optimization and email marketing and all of that stuff. The reason we call it performance is because we're aimed at a specific objective. We're trying to grow leads. We're trying to grow sales. We're trying to increase opt-ins. We're trying to increase foot traffic. It's all about driving performance for the business. And there's other slices of the marketing pie too. I mean, there's folks that really specialize in, what's called programmatic digital advertising, where you're running ads across all the different kinds of screens and different networks like TV, micro TV networks, screens at gas stations, billboard advertising. There's old school newspaper, magazine, TV, radio advertising out there. And really, to kind of summarize it, a marketing agency, what their role is they're kind of the arbiter, the facilitator of those machines to drive your business in a certain direction, whether it's growth or brand awareness or whatever, right? And like I said, there's lots of different ways to slice that pie, but an agency is your machine workers in a way, in a sense. Does that answer your question? kind of?
Yes. So how important then is market segment focus?
Yeah, so I think it's super important, and I'll break it down in some different ways for you. So, when we think about target audiences, the first step we think was like, well, who's my target audience? Well, if I'm a craft beer brand, for example, I say, well, I have a certain age group that I want to target. Maybe it's 25, 26 to maybe 55 on the high end, right? Maybe a little bit older, a little bit younger, depending on where you're at and what products you offer. You have a certain geo radius that you're going after. If you're just a tap room, for example, you got a certain amount of miles or zip codes around your tap room that are most important for you. If you're doing wholesale distribution, you've got zip codes and cities and regions that are important to you from a geographic perspective. You might break that up further and with some demographic stuff like men versus women, married versus not married, socio-economic status. But where it gets kind of fun and exciting is when you start thinking about that from a behavioral and interest-based segmentation. So you say, well, what do these people do? Am I the kind of brand that appeals to people that are like outdoorsy people or that ride bikes and are really into biking and that kind of thing? Or are my people sports people? Are they hikers? Are they, moms and dads with families? Are they, and there's all these different kind of behavioral interest groups that you can start to break up. And all of that stuff is kind of your top level brand to market fit segmentation kind of thing, your target audience. Now, to break it down even further, you can think about segmentation in other ways too. And a really great example of where this applies is maybe in your owned list, your email list, your contact list. You may have people that are first-time buyers that have been to your tap room once. You may have people that have been to your tap room or bought in your products multiple times. So there's kind of your loyal segments. You may have people that have bought once or twice and then haven't been back in a long time. Those are kind of your lagging segments. And your messaging, why segmentation is so important is because your message changes based on segment. So you may have a certain offer or a certain message you're trying to portray to people that are very loyal and come in all the time. You may have a different message for people that haven't been in a while and say, hey, come back, give us a try. We've got new stuff on the menu. Here's a special offer for something like that. And your message changes as well based on your interest in behavior and demographic targets too. You're going to say something a little bit different and show it something a little bit different in your imagery and video and that kind of stuff to the moms and dads of the world versus the young partiers and those kind of folks, or the hikers of the world versus the I'm just going to hang out on my couch and watch football folks. So segmentation matters a lot because of message resonance in a summary there. But yeah, I could talk about it all day.
I feel like I fit in like 3 of the 4 people you just described there.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to hike, but I also like to just sit on my couch and maybe watch football.
Yeah, but you probably, you could probably think of, with a little bit of, brainstorming, maybe a couple of beers or something. You see an ad or you see a brand that really fits you and you're like, man, that's awesome. They know who I am. I associate with that brand. I vibe with that product. And that is the value of segmentation, is because your message fits with who your target customer really is. Any brands like that come to mind? Do you have any? You're like, man, these folks get me. I am down with that. Like you wear their logos or something. That's kind of the affinity there. Anything come to mind?
Oh, I am currently wearing a Shiner shirt, the Eat, Meet, Drink Beer shirt.
There you go.
Fits me quite well.
There you go. You fit the carnivorous beer drinker segment.
That's right. A very specific one.
True story. I'm susceptible to pretty much all brewery marketing. So
yeah, I tend to buy things where I like the name on the can.
Mm-hmm.
So I fit to whatever that strategy is. And then I don't tend to stick to a brand so much. I do like Taxman a lot and I will rep them, but I like their beer a lot.
Yeah. Even some things like visual appeal really matter. Like, Frime, I think that's how you pronounce their name. They have like really cool branding on their cans. It's like this simple, clean, black with like, gold or silver highlights on the can branding. They're not a client of ours, but I love their branding and their beer. And when I see that on the shelves, I'm like, man, I like that. I also, I'm a 36-year-old guy, right? Like my drinking tastes have changed. I'm really into, Kolsch's and Pilsners and craft lagers these days. Whereas, 5-8 years ago, I was all about the big Belgian beastie beers, and now if I see a brand that really gets behind and promotes their craft lagers and that stuff, I'm like, yes, I gravitate in that direction because my tastes have changed. And my segmentation is split up with that, right? So those things do matter, and understanding who your audience is a big part of it.
That feels like a current trend, and I'm really supportive of it. I like getting these sessionable, or at least the beers that you can drive home from drinking out there.
Yes, you could have a few of them on a Saturday and not feel like you're, super bloated or, you're tanked out. I'm with you on that one. The lawnmower beers, give me more lagers and lawnmower beers.
So,
there you go.
What types of breweries are contacting you? Like, how diverse are they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit, it's varied, right? Like we work with some breweries that are, just a couple years old, and they're trying to start to ramp up their growth, right? Maybe they're just operating a taproom. You maybe call them nano or a micro brewery. They're not even distributing much yet. Maybe they're on a couple of shelves. Some of them don't even have, full on labels yet. They're just kind of doing crowlers at this point. And then we work with folks that are regionally distributed in multi-states and, got fully fleshed out wholesale strategies and wholesale sales programs. It's kind of all over the map, for us. We also do work with suppliers and vendors too, like the Hop Guild. In fact, I'm wearing their hat. They're a great client of ours, so we help them with their hop farming group and manufacturer, and they sell hops. Malting groups, financial advisors in the space. So we do, marketing for all sorts of folks. On the brewery front, it is kind of diverse. Where it kind of, where we phase out really is like breweries maybe that are just starting out, and breweries that are very, very well developed and very big. So like, like the Sierra Nevadas of the world, right? And the reasons is they already have, fully fleshed out marketing teams. They've hired this all in-house for the most part. And the really, brand new or very, very small guys, there's budget, right? So, agencies do cost money. And there's a point where it's like, well, we can't quite afford to bring on an agency. Maybe they go freelance or they try to do it themselves until they get to a point where they're like, okay, I need to hand this off and have somebody work on it. We're kind of that middle ground bridge. And that's just the way the agency world works, really. But yeah, can I answer your question?
Yeah, definitely did.
Cool.
So you were talking about working with the smaller ones. They want to maybe increase their growth and not distributing yet. So I guess the breweries that are coming to you, well, obviously they're coming to you to increase sales and, their revenue stream or stabilize it or, similar. But is everybody looking to expand or are they just looking to get to these happy places? Are you getting a mix of people?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually folks, if you're coming to an agency, it's because you're trying to achieve growth in some way. And the reason for that growth varies, right? Like maybe there's a new location we're adding and we need to expand that market or launch in that market. Or it's like, hey, I recently bought a brewery and we need to revamp the strategy here to bring more people in and kind of, revamp the whole branding message out here and change the thinking on what this brand was before. There's also folks that are like, yeah, we're going to launch distribution, or, hey, we're launching in new markets, so we need support in those new markets. Or, hey, we've been a tap room for a while now, and we need more growth, right? Like sales have been stagnant, or they're not growing fast enough, or they're shrinking. Like we got to do something here. And they look at their marketing and say, we got to change some things up. So they bring in somebody to help with that. But it's almost always, if you're reaching out to do something with marketing, it's because you need to make more money at the base of it, right?
Yeah, I was looking at some of your I think it was sample works and things, and there were I call them flyers. I'm sure that they came in many forms, but for things like events and stuff. So, are you helping plan like tap room or distribution or events like that to get the word out? Is that part of what you do?
Totally.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what makes us a little special as an agency is that, we understand the craft beer industry really well because we've worked in it now for 3 years, and that really is our bread and butter. And part of what works for craft breweries and tap rooms, in particular, is programming. And in working with these breweries for so long, we've seen and ran campaigns for all kinds of stuff. And what we actually started doing is making like a big list of what kind of campaigns work, what we've seen work, how we've run the marketing and advertising and email and social and that kind of stuff for those events to try to lead to the most results with that. And where those kind of fit into different situations for the tap room, whether it's a big anniversary event or kind of a smaller recurring event or a beer release event or music or food or whatever, right? Festivals, et cetera, et cetera. And, it's kind of interesting. There's patterns in that stuff, but, and there's tools that make it work better. Events are a huge portion of this, for sure. I think that is it. Like if there were pillars in what we do for tap rooms, running those events and everything that means, and we can dive into that, some examples and stuff like that if you guys want to, but the programming, the events are a huge portion of it for the tap room. Absolutely.
As a fan of events, I want to dive into.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as an example, I'm in Indianapolis. The Pacers just lost Game 7 of the NBA Finals a little bit ago, and Game 7 kind of, it snuck up on everyone. No one expected it. And my regular tap room, they did have a last minute, because of the nature of the beast, event for Game 7. And I'm just wondering how something like that could possibly work. So my suspicion, because I know the brewer quite well, he's been on the show. Bart has been on the show before, but my suspicion is he wanted to watch the game, and he knew some of his regulars wanted to watch the game and just make it a party. But a last minute event like that, a really big to do, especially for the city and the community. Like how can a blitz work there or something?
Yeah, so that's a great example. We actually had a client in Minnesota when Minnesota was in the tournament as well. So those ones are tough for a couple of reasons. They're tough. I'll explain why it's tough, and then I'll explain how to capitalize on this. The reason it's tough is because the schedule. You're like every game they could be out or not. And same with hockey, any of those like series-based baseball, same kind of situation. So it's like, well, how do we really plan ahead? And so much of what events are is like, all right, we need to plan 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance to get pages up, to get marketing out, to get emails going, to remind people again and again and again. And when you have a situation like that, a sporting thing, it's like, well, this is happening right now. So that's part of the challenge. The other challenge is that you've got licensing, sports viewing stuff you got to be aware of, like depending on your DirecTV package or whatever, like can you even show the game? And maybe you can and fly under the radar, but as soon as you start marketing and advertising about that, you put up a flag saying, hey, we've got it. So got to be a little careful with how you promote that stuff and how close you want to fly to the sun if you are, kind of in this gray zone of like, can we or can't we promote this thing or show it? So a couple of challenges there. Now, how to capitalize on it is, well, it takes in advance and saying, hey, like we're an establishment that shows games. We love the Pacers. We're big Pacers fans. We got Pacers stuff up on the walls. We play games all year, and maybe we've got specials during Pacer games all year. And people start to know that, hey, this is a spot where I can watch this team play.
You see that a lot around here, probably other places around the football leagues out there, the Europe football leagues especially. Yeah. Okay.
Vegas is a big hockey city now. So the Golden Knights are all over the place. And if you are a bar that shows the Golden Knights games, you've got Golden Knights games all season. And like, you got to get behind it, right? Like if you're going to be a hype bar for the playoffs, like, and you're like, yeah, we play the games, but like when you play them, you got like one TV, there's no sound on, and you're playing other games over there. It's like, all right, I don't want to go to that bar to watch the playoffs. I want to go to the spot where it's going to be loud and rowdy and fun. Establish yourself as that. And there's ways you can really get involved too. Like we have a client we work with in Colorado, but they are a Bills backers organization. So they are officially a Buffalo Bills backers. That's something you can become and get like logoed up and allowed to, promote stuff from the Bills organization. And they have merch that's all associated with this. It's like, they're very about it. So people know that they're a Bills spot. In fact, if you Google like Bills, places to watch Bills games in Denver, they come up like very commonly. So you got to kind of do the groundwork ahead of time to establish, hey, I'm in a spot like this. Then it's about, well, we got to be posting about it. We got to be posting stories, social posts, organic posts. You may do some boosted advertisements or just straight ads saying, hey, we've got games on. And again, there's a trademark licensing issue, but hey, let's put a basketball graphic up here that's colored strategically in the team colors, and like, let's figure out a way to get as close as we can to the sun without going into it. You could promote with ads that way, but your email is an excellent place to promote this stuff. You don't run into as much regulatory copyright issues in email as you would with ads on like Meta or something like that. So grow your email list of folks. Maybe if you play the games all year, have people sign up for the email, the Pacer email newsletter list while they're there, so that when the playoffs come, you email all those people. You talked about segmentation earlier, right? So come back to segmentation. Do you have a segment of sports fans in your list that you can hit up and say, hey, we got the games on, we got specials on, come in, etc. Right? Yeah. Does that make sense? You follow?
It does. It makes sense. And around here, we've got a couple of weird segments of like, it's a lot of racing garages in various industrial areas or warehouse areas. Those tend to get turned into racing garages. So that's a particular segment that really, I don't know, exists outside of Indianapolis.
You guys are big into the racing.
Yeah, it's nuts. If you can run it around in a circle, then they're going to race it.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. I was surprised when I was there. I was like, man, there's a bunch of race stuff. I guess it makes sense. You're the race city, so lean into it for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. It doesn't even hit me anymore. I've lived here for about 20 years, and like seeing the race car in the airport, it's one of those things. Sometimes I remember to tell people visiting to look for the race cars at the airport because they're kind of cool. And then we were at the field where the Colts play. I've totally lost the name of it for some reason. But yeah, there were race cars all over there.
Lucas Oil Stadium.
Lucas Oil Stadium. Yeah, all sorts of types of race cars there.
That was rad, man. Like walking into that stadium, they did the welcome event for CBC there, and I'd never been there, obviously. And I'm a Denver Broncos fan. I was born in Denver, so I see all the Peyton Manning stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Peyton Manning's cool. I'm with it. And then you walk inside the stadium and you just got these huge race cars stacked up in there, and there's all this oil stuff. I'm like, okay, this is pretty neat. I'd never, not a huge race fan, but like seeing the cars and all that is still cool. So I thought it was neat.
Yeah, they didn't have all of the stadium open. There's a section where Irsay, may he rest in peace, had his guitars collection on display and just random stuff like that. It's a pretty neat stadium to visit.
Nice. Yeah, it is cool.
The other weird segment that we have, Indianapolis is a swimming city, competitive swimming. Yeah, which I was involved in not as a swimmer, but as an organizer for youths. The Olympic trials were here the last Summer Olympics. They'll be here the next Summer Olympics. And so that is another one where it gets televised here. It's a big deal for those in the swimming community. It's just one of those, but it feels like there would be fewer licensing issues there to go watch a swim meet on a TV.
100%. It is a lot easier, and it's local, and like, so much of craft beer is being local, right? You're a local business in so many ways, and supporting local is important. So get behind it, and make sure you're understanding when this stuff is happening so you can get ahead far enough and put this on your calendars, right? Like, hey, we're going to have the games on, we're going to have specials during that period. You get the message out in advance. You're posting on social, but like, again, your email list, your text list, those are super important to get ahead on. So people know that it's coming up and they start to associate, oh yeah, we should go watch, and they'll have the games on. And, if we want to watch the meet or whatever, like, hey, we might as well go sit down and have a burger and a beer somewhere. Why not be a place that they're going to show it? Another factor in that vein, down that road, another metaphor for you, is SEO, right? And if somebody searches for bar showing XYZ meat, they may pop that into Google, and now AI is a factor with this. So the way you show up for those searches is you have to have content on your website or someplace that speaks to that. So it could be an event page on your website. You got event pages. It could be an Eventbrite page if you're going to do like ticketed or even free registrations, or a beertrails.com page, something along those lines. Your Google My Business, you can post events on your GMB listing, which is a really cool way. Those things list pretty well, and you can pre-plan out the event even if you don't have a ton of details on it. Just think keywords, right? Like whatever the name of the meet is, this date, and then have like, hey, we have craft beer, we have this going on, we have food, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, now you've got keywords out there, so when somebody searches, whether it's AI or on Google or whatever, that page is out there. The Google's going to pick it up. The AI is going to pick it up and show that result to somebody. So, but in order for that to work, you've got to get ahead. You got to plan on it and bank on it, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other cool events, aside from the sports stuff, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, the anniversary things are pretty straightforward. But like, the things we've seen kind of work with anniversaries or maybe similar events is like, let me back up a step. One thing we really like to do with our events, whatever it is that we're promoting, is we want to have some kind of registration point, even if it's free. It's like, okay, we're not going to charge for people to show up for this event, but we want a place where they can sign up and say, hey, I'm going to attend. And the reason for that is a couple of reasons. One, you have a trackable thing that you can track through advertising, through email, whatever, that says, hey, look, we drove this much traffic to this page, and this is how many people signed up. So we can understand which channels are working best for us with marketing. So that's important. But also, like, there's like a level of commitment. If somebody fills out a registration form, like, their commitment level jumped up. If they just see the event and they don't sign up for anything, they may go, oh yeah, that's something I would attend. And then they forget about it. There's a little bit less involvement. Something always comes up the day of, the kids are a little bit whatever. I'm a little tired this day, or I'd rather just sit on my butt at home. I mean, I'm guilty of that. My wife and I are introverts many times. And we're just like, yeah, we don't want to go do that stuff. We'll find an excuse not to go. But if you've even signed up, your brain chemistry is that, okay, I'm committed to that. I don't want to not fulfill my commitment. Now, if you pay a little bit, $5, $10, whatever, now your commitment level is significantly higher. And even if you're not so coming to the paid portion of this, like, you don't have to charge like a cover fee. I think there's some adverse, reaction. I say, well, I'm just going to charge them $5 to show up. Why not give something for that $5, $10 for it? It's your first pour that's included. Or, hey, and coming back to my anniversary example here, is a glass. We're going to sell a glass, a specialty glass that's only available during the anniversary. And that glass also includes your first pour while you're here. So when you show up, you show your registration. Oh, here's your glass, and take this little ticket up to the bar, and you're going to get your first pour included. Now you've got revenue before the event's even started. You've got commitment from people. And, now you've got them here. They're drinking, they're buying beer, and so on and so forth. You got all the trackability on there. And that's where I was coming with this. Why, what we do for anniversaries and these kind of events is pre-sell some type of value thing to get people committed and to start getting that revenue engine going, right?
Makes sense to me. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, the Get Hoptimized podcast. Yeah, man, I'm podcast. Now the podcast is awesome. It's very much so a passion project. I do it because I like doing it. Do we have Are we Joe Rogan? Absolutely not. Not even close. But I like doing it. And we have cool guests on there. We talk to a lot of like industry professional folks, and we try to have really neat conversations that are valuable. It's always what I tell anybody who comes on the show is that, hey, look, this isn't just a commercial for whatever your company is or whoever you are. Like, we want to have a cool conversation. I want to ask you some questions that I know our audience is going to get value from, and they're going to be able to take actionable advice from this. And then, of course, yeah, let's give you a plug for whatever you have going on. And, usually these are brands that I think are cool, and yeah, it's a cool thing, man. The episodes are like 20, 30 minutes long. We're distributed on all the things, Spotify, Apple. We started doing them on YouTube now, and Amazon, so on and so forth. But it's fun. I love having folks on there. It's a good time. You guys like doing the podcast? Yeah, it's fun for you guys.
It's definitely a passion project. There's no profit in this.
Yeah. They people think like, oh yeah, you run the podcast, you must sell ads and you make all this money. I'm like, no, it is a cost to my business for sure. But it's fun. I like doing it.
Yeah, you get to talk to interesting people. It opens doors. I had a media pass at the CBC. That was kind of nice.
I was going to try to do that next year. That's a great idea. It's a media pass. As somebody told me that, I was like, why don't you have a media pass? And I'm like, I should have a media pass. Good idea. So yeah, totally. That's a good move.
Yeah.
Do you have who was your favorite guest?
Yeah.
Favorite guests. So some of the cool ones we've had on there, like one of my favorite guests of all time is Kelly Hieronymus. She's the marketing director for West 6th down in Kentucky.
Yeah, Lexington.
Lexington. Fantastic person. She's a brilliant marketer. They've done an excellent job with West 6th, and like getting her on the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a cool conversation. We've kind of become buddies. I saw her at CBC. I went to the Kentucky Guild of Brewers event, and she's a great person. So she's definitely one of my favorites. There's so many good ones here that we've had on. Like we had, let me actually pull up the list here of folks. So I'm going to do this live. We're doing it live.
That's right.
Let's see what we got here. Some of the recent ones are pretty fun too. So, we just had Mike Levinson on. He was a really interesting guy. He's more of like a food service pro, but I had him on the show because like he is really knowledgeable about alternative retail channels. So, you think your big box guys like maybe Whole Foods or Total Wine or something like that, or Walmart or Target. But what he specializes in is what he calls these like rivers, lakes, and ponds for your retail strategy. Like, how can you get into like locally owned pizza places or local hotels and these spots? And they can actually be very valuable for a local business like a brewery. And I was like, okay, we got to talk to you about this. And that was a fun one. Who else has been on here? Let's look. Oh, the ones we did for CBC preview, those were really cool. We did a whole series ahead of CBC with everybody. We kind of did a shared space at CBC with like 7 other brands where we got like a big 40 by 20 space and tried to split some of the costs and some of the effort to make that work. So I interviewed a lot of the people that were doing the booths there. And we had folks like from Perfectly Dosed. They're a cannabis infusion product for craft beer and food products as well. We had John from the Beer Law Center on there to talk legal stuff. And if you're looking for 20, 30 minutes of free legal advice, go listen to that episode because John is very knowledgeable. And other ones like that too. I mean, Dan from the Beverage Federation, he put that whole thing together. We did a podcast with him, but man, Dan is an awesome guy as well. And the Beverage Federation is a great group. I don't know. Everybody is really cool. I always try to find something cool with everybody to talk about. And what ends up happening is you get talking to somebody. You're like, all right, I got a couple of questions for you. And then, you start to warm up and all of a sudden it's like the light bulbs go off and it's like, oh man, I got to ask you this question and something I've really been curious about. And then it turns into a neat conversation. You become buddies and friends and it's rad. So that's why I do it. Like I said, it's a passion project, but it's fun.
Yes. Sorry. So my favorite guest, I've only been on this show for a year. I don't remember when I started. maybe it's coming up on 2 years now. I'm not sure. But the first people I got to interview was Alaskan Brewing. Which it
Oh,
was,
that's cool.
yeah, it was, and they were great to talk to, and they had a lot to say. They were really fun to talk to. So that was kind of wonderful.
That's fantastic. I'd be like, man.
Oddly enough, one of my favorite guests too.
And you've been on this longer than me.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, they would be a really great one. I'd be like, yo, so I see your Alaskan amber everywhere. So congrats on that, because it is if anybody's gonna have an amber on their tap list, any of these big bars, it's almost always Alaskan amber, at least in Vegas. So they're very well distributed in Vegas.
It is down here too. Down here,
but
over here.
not in Indiana.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they're in Ohio, Michigan. I think they're in Illinois now. They're not in Indiana. Painful.
Yeah. I mean, they're good beer for sure.
We're gonna get Yingling in Michigan finally.
Oh yeah, we do have Yingling.
They threaten us with that like every few years that we'll see it, and then it never happens. So I'm supposedly it already is here. I haven't been to the store.
I will pick up their porter every time I see it, especially the Hershey porter.
I am a big fan of the black and tan.
Yeah, that thing is delicious.
The first time I ever had Yingling was in a past life. I was part of a startup company in college that became, ended up being like $1 million company, but we were like a VIP travel service company. And our shtick was we provided these services for big scale music festivals. And one of these festivals was down in Georgia. And we flew down there, and we were like, oh, we got to get beer for everybody. We did like whole like cool glamping setup. So part of that is you buy a bunch of beer for everybody. We go to the store, and it's like there's just these huge 36 racks of Yingling. We're like, okay, let's just buy this stuff, and never heard of it before. And then drank a lot of Yingling at this music festival and stuff. And then you come to find out it's like this long historic history in the United States. I'm like, oh wow, I've never seen that before. And then not 2 months later, Yingling starts popping up in Las Vegas at that point. It's like, oh, somehow weird how the universe works out like that. But yeah, fun time. Introduced in the best way at a music festival.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, from here in Michigan, we're really hard on our breweries, I guess I would say, because it seems like everything that we want, like we all love Yingling. We want it every chance we get, we buy it. Until it's sold here, and then we're going to be like, I can get it anytime.
That's right.
Every single one I've seen that happen with. So,
yeah,
I think we like the chase more than we actually like the beer sometimes.
Yeah, it's the grass is greener, or all that stuff.
I will say, I was just at that conference in Chicago, and they had like Coors, Bud Light, and then Yingling. And you could tell the beer people in the room because they all drank Yingling.
Right.
Yeah. That's how you can always tell. They're going for the specialty option. And that's kind of indicative of the craft beer industry too. It's like, oh, we want the new thing, want the new shiny thing, and then we're over it. I think hazies were like a very long-standing champion for forever, but now we've got like these West Coast Pilsners. That was something out of CBC that I was really pumped about, was that, man, there was these West Coast Pilsners or West Coast lagers, that kept popping up, and they're the hoppy lager. And it's like, this is fun. I like that. I'm like, I wonder how long this will hang around. Now West Coast IPAs are kind of having their day, somewhat on the rise, but it's like, okay, when that sours were before that. It's like everyone was pumped on that. They changed up their whole brewing operations because sours were the next thing. And then they went away. And it's like, well, crap, now we got all this stuff to brew sours. We're not selling enough of it. Seltzers, NA, like what's going to have staying power? And man, it's tough to run a business in this industry because like tastes are just constantly evolving. And how do you brew and fulfill those tastes? That is a tricky needle to thread for sure.
That was one. Sorry, go ahead, Wendy.
No, go ahead.
Oh, that was one of the messages out of CBC I thought really resonated, was when they were talking about when you're marketing your beer or describing your beer, stay away from the ingredients, the IBUs, those things, and go to what flavors are actually in there, and that's how you're going to appeal to your people and get people to try your beer.
Yep. Because dude, like people don't know what the hell IBU is for, like some people do. The craft beer nerds are like, oh yeah, I understand, but like I would argue even some of the people that say, yeah, I'm a craft beer guy. Like, do you know the difference? Like the real flavor difference you're going to get from 40 to 80 IBUs. Like it's really, if I were to put that in front of you, you're going to be able to pick that out. Probably not. And so but to your point, and I would agree with whoever said this or whoever echoed it at CBC, is that, what is the value to the consumer? Like what you're describing with IBUs or ABVs, even, well, ABV is a little different story, but like some of the flavors, like, oh, I got Cascade and Noble hops in here. Cool story, bro. What does that even mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do those hops taste like? And express that. Because what you're doing here, and we're going to break this down in marketing terms, is you're listing a feature of your product. It's got Cascade and Noble hops in it. That's even a combo. You're not expressing the benefit of that. It's piney, it's bitter, it's fresh, it's juicy and peach and stone fruit and all these different things. Express that. That sounds way better than that particular hop.
The Cascade part is important for the people who know that Cascade tastes like cat pee to them. But and you're not going to put that description on your beer.
Yeah.
No, that'd be sprucey.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So cool story on this, related tangent. So there's this bar here in Vegas called the Laundry Room. It's like a secret bar. You have to text a number to get a reservation. And you go to this bar, it's called Commonwealth, and they bring you into the hallway, and they open up the bar, and it's a painting that they swing open, and you go through the painting, and then you sit in this cocktail room. And really cool experience. But their whole thing is they don't have menus, and they come to your table and they say, okay, what flavors do you like? And then you start telling them, you're like, well, I don't really like this. And they say, don't tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you like. And when I went there, I was like, well, I really like, this and this, and I mentioned pine, and I like that kind of flavor. And in my mind, I'm like, if you were to ask me if I wanted a gin drink, I'd be like, no, I don't like gin. But because gin has that kind of sprucey pine flavor, they made me this gin cocktail that I absolutely loved. And maybe some of these people with Cascade, they associated with cat pee, but there's probably a different way to build that flavor profile in a way that you might be surprised with Cascade if you never had it this way. So coming back to the benefits thing, express the benefits of that instead of the feature, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. So real quick, talking about diversity of products and things like that, and the ever-changing taste. So I just spent a week in Minnesota.
Yeah. And
their THC drinks have exploded. Apparently during COVID, it got snuck in some other bill that the breweries could serve these drinks. And literally, I went to 16 different breweries, and probably 10 of them told us that those THC drinks have saved their business. Have you noticed a lot more of that type of diversity throughout the country?
Everyone is talking about it. And it is surprising to me that Minnesota is at the tip of the spear with this stuff. And especially because I've drunk and gotten drunk in Minnesota. I'll say that. No, I'm drinking craft beer in Minnesota, and it's weird because the alcohol laws there are kind of funky compared to other spots. Maybe because I live in Las Vegas, where you can just drink anything and everything you possibly want. But you have serving limits, you have that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden cannabis drinks are just cracking off in this state. I'm like, how did that work out? And to hear you talk about the COVID thing, it seems like they figured out a way to weasel in. But so anyways, that's besides the point. I think the cannabis infused stuff is getting very popular, and it speaks to this idea of you have to have a diversified product portfolio to be able to attract drinkers across the spectrum here. Folks that, hey, I don't necessarily want to have a big boozy alcohol drink, but I'll have a little bit of a THC buzz, or I want an NA thing, or I want a low ABV, or I do want that high ABV stuff, or I want a seltzer, or I want wine or cider, or whatever the case is. That's part of this thing. The cannabis thing is a new hot topic. I'm excited to see where it evolves. I think it's an awesome product, and we just have to figure out how to be safe with it. You get buzzed differently on cannabis than you do with alcohol. So there's a regulatory thing. I talked to John a bit about this from the Beer Law Center. We had Perfectly Dosed with us at CBC and had them on the podcast too, and asked them about this because they're very knowledgeable on it. And it's like, yeah, this thing is taken off. It's a race for breweries to figure out how to do it and for states to figure out how to regulate it. And it's kind of like this weird, who's going to get there first, and then what are we going to pull back? What are we going to allow? Which is fun to watch, but also chaotic to try to navigate as a business. So hopefully, and it's weird from a marketing perspective too, because these ad platforms like Meta and Google, they are very when it comes to anything cannabis. Like you can't run ads for any of these dispensaries and all that stuff. You can't run ads. You can post. You can use influencers to talk about cannabis and THC, but like as soon as you start running ads for it, they block them. They're very good at it now. Same with Google. So thinking about can of cocktails or can of beers or whatever, THC beers, that is where it's going to get funky, because you can run alcohol ads, but like if Meta figures out that stuff has THC in it, their bots pick it up and then they review and a human picks it up, then like they're going to flag that. And if you do that too many times, they will totally shut down your ad account, and they can actually call you a violation of their standards and manipulating systems. And like they can shut down your organic page too. And like you got to be really careful, because you don't want that to happen, because you're selling beer and food and all this other stuff in the tap room. So like it's a weird situation. I think Meta should just get on the train at this point and figure out how to let it be okay. But it is a risky situation, so be very careful with your advertising when it comes to THC. Don't put yourself in hot water. There's platforms that allow you to do it, like some display networks and some of that stuff. But you, of course, you could use billboards and some of those things. You could also advertise in creative ways. Like I've seen these ads for Seth Rogen's THC drink, and he's like on Instagram being like, hey, I'm here to tell you about this herbal beverage, and I can't say what's in it because of this stupid platform, and I can't tell you how I feel right now because of this stupid platform, but promise me it works. And like it's like, okay, so they're not really saying any of these things, but like they're getting around it. It's kind of funny, but yeah, just be careful, be creative, you'll find a way.
A lot of that seems to be taproom and point of sale marketing around here, at least. So,
yeah.
And weed is still not legal in Indiana. I don't foresee it becoming legal with the current politics and things in the state, even though I think most people want it now at this point. But the laws are written such that putting it in beverages is absolutely fine.
See, super weird. Yeah, because it's like hemp derived when you do the beverages, and it's all this weird chemistry stuff that I do not know enough about.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a boom in Nevada, and where these other places where it's allowed to be, and like it's cool to see that work out, and like with minimal problems from what I've seen. I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable on this. I just kind of pay attention casually, and everyone's like, oh my God, we're going to have, druggies and delinquents everywhere. And it's like, actually, come to find out, the THC folks are super chill.
Yeah. Right.
It's not even a big deal. So
isn't that a byproduct of what they sell?
Is chill vibes? Yeah.
Yeah. I can't see people in Las Vegas complaining about new drugs, or they're not even new drugs, but yeah.
Nope, not a problem with it. As long as it can be taxed and the city gets their piece, we're good.
And I've walked the strip before at night.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If anything, it makes it safer, honestly. Like, instead of trying to pick up some weird stuff from somebody off the street, you go into a well-regulated place and it's like, okay, we're good. But yeah, dude, I mean, it's interesting to see it evolve. I'm very excited to see what happens with it. I think breweries are kind of scared. If you're not on that train, you're like, well, these can of drinks are going to take away my market share. And what the folks on the inside say is like, look, that's not our intention. Nobody's trying to do that. We're trying to be a and situation. And in fact, like if you do figure out a way to, brew these products or associate yourself in some way, then there's a whole new revenue stream that could be developed shelf space that can be had in retail environments, and you just got to hop on the train, hop on the trend. In some ways, you don't have to, of course. If it's not your bag, then don't do it. But it is interesting to see these breweries use it. We'll see.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. We talked to Bart about NA beers, and he said, "No, I drink beer to get drunk, so I'm not going to brew them."
Yeah, I'm usually not in on the NA stuff. I had some of these in the fridge, but honestly, if I'm going to reach for an NA beery type thing, hop water is my bag. I love hop water. I didn't know I loved it until I had one recently. It was like about a year ago, where I had my first one. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what hop water is. I love it. I thought it was just going to be like a super hot bomb thing. I'm like, okay, I'm not super into that. But then you have it. It's just subtle, nice. You really get a hop flavor, and it's light on your tummy, and you could have something that tastes good and is kind of beer. So I'd rather reach for a hop water than an NA beer personally.
Me too.
Chris, it has been wonderful talking to you. We are coming up to the top of the hour, and so that means that we are going to be coming along with our final questions. And since I have just jumped into this, I'm going to give Wendy some time to think about a final question. And I will ask you my standard one. What is the last board game or card game that you played, and did you win? This might be cheating in Las Vegas. I'm not sure, but...
No, good question. My wife and I are board game people, and her and I played Catan. We were hanging out, drinking wine, and playing Catan, and we played 3 rounds of Catan, and I won 2 out of the 3 of them. So
nice.
I win.
That's a nice classic. So if you ever want to come back to Indianapolis, Gen Con is here every year. It is actually in August. So there's one coming up, but huge consumer-based board game convention. Loads of fun.
Oh, sick. That sounds fun.
And if you want a smaller one, I highly recommend Grand Con up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That is Labor Day weekend, for the Friday through Sunday. I will happily shill for them. I will be there this coming Labor Day. But they are less, I'd say they're more enthusiast aimed. So there's a few vendors there, but then they have a huge game library. You just check out a game, you learn how to play it, you play it, check it back
cool.
Yeah, it's
you
absolutely
experience lots of new games that way, and without because these games are expensive, man. It's like $60 for the board game. You're like, well, hopefully I like it.
My group and I, on the 3 days, we learn about 20 games and play them. Yeah, in that weekend. So it's loads of fun.
That's rad. Nice.
Yeah.
I can't get my friends to sit together for that long to learn a new game, let alone 20. Good grief.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's beer too, because it's Grand Rapids.
I have Unstable Unicorns, I think it's called. I bought that for my friend like 5 years ago, and we still haven't learned how to play it.
Oh, geez. Some of them are complicated, man. Like we got this like haunted mansion, it's like something like that, and like the game is so freaking hard. It's like, all right, dude, I do not have a master's degree to figure out this damn game, so we'll play something else. Catan is a little easier. Down with that.
That is something that I feel like I missed my mark. Like I didn't realize that there was actually people out there who were creating board games. Like that would have been my dream job.
Yeah,
you could still do it. Why not?
I could. I'm not even sure where I would get my foot. I mean, I would have to just create my own, I guess.
There's a Grand Gamers Guild out of Grand Rapids. They are a group of game creators that put together. They put out games, or a publisher too, but they're based out of Grand Rapids.
I'm going to have to look that up. I would figure that you would know that. I am going to go into my last question, though. What is your current favorite beer? Because I know it changes all the time. What is the beer that you are your go-to right now?
Let me think on that. There's so many good ones, man. I mean, I really like reaching for the local stuff here in town, and I've got to give my client here, Big Dogs, a plug. They won a gold medal for Triple Dog Dare, which is a Belgian triple, and I love that beer. I mentioned I really like going for the pilsners and the lagers and stuff, but it's like if I'm going to have myself one of my good beers, like that tends to be one I like to have. Another plug here for in town is Able Baker. They have a beer called El Pato Loco. or El Pato Loca. It's like a Mexican lager. I think they won a medal for it too at World Beer Cup. And it's fantastic beer. It's a cruiser, it's like 5%, 6%. And
How many ducks do you have from Abel Baker?
oh, dude, we have tons of ducks. They line our bathroom, tons of them. Anytime we go, we're like, oh, we got a good flight, get a duck. Yeah, we've got ducks for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah. They always do like the Christmas ones and the holiday ones. And I love the traffic cone ones. Our joke here in Las Vegas is that our state flower is the construction cone. Okay. So they do that every once in a while. They have a beer that's like Nevada State Flower. And it's all construction cone themed. So we've got lots of ducks and they're great.
Excellent. Well, Chris, it has been wonderful to talk to you. I am so glad that we got to talk, and we didn't even get to talk about the beer scene in Las Vegas. So that is
well. Next time we'll do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We will have to have you back talk about that and things you've done recently. But again, it has been wonderful talking to you. Wendy, do you have anything coming up? Anything you want to mention? I sprung that on you too.
You did. No, I do have a bunch of content coming from the trips to Chicago and Minnesota. So be on the lookout for those.
Okay, excellent. We are currently trying to schedule someone from July 11. We've just been having communication slow down. But hopefully we'll have someone scheduled for July 11, and then we will know what's going on after that. But I don't think we have anything else big coming up. As I said, I'll be in Grand Rapids Labor Day weekend. I'm very excited for that, and I will be drinking a lot of beer. I may or may not be dressed as a banana, pickle, or shark, depending on which day you see me. But that does tend to happen at that particular event.
We want to see pics.
They're out there.
Nice.
I'll see what I can find. But that pretty much wraps it up. So I will end the show like we end every show and say, whatever you think of your beer, we think gets better on draft.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. It's been great. Thank you.